Hey guys, today I want to show you how you can emulate 5 of Wes Borland's iconic Limp Bizkit tones. This band is often overlooked for just how creative and how sonically complex they are. Like, Wes is a total mastermind, and he is proof that new metal can be so much more than just like 010 bounce riffs. So let's get into it. First, let's do Livin It Up. So this one starts with a clean amp. We could use almost anything. I'm going to use this one in Archetype Nolly. And if we skip over to the EQ here, you can see I'm really emphasizing the mid-range, especially the high mids. This tone definitely mainly lives around like 1K. And also in front of the amp here, I have this compressor on pretty hard, so we're getting every note nice and consistent. So that is the first step. A clean amp with quite a lot of mid-range focus and compression in front of the amp is kind of the base for our tone. Now we just need to run that through some effects to transform it into the Livin It Up tone. So firstly, it's going to be delay and maybe a bit of reverb as well. So I'm just going to use what we have in this plugin again, but we could use anything. And we want about 400 milliseconds. Yeah, and the mix nice and high, so we're really hearing that echo. And then just a tiny bit of reverb. Yeah, just to create that atmosphere around the tone. Okay, next it's going to be all about modulation effects. Wes tends to go modulation and then delay, but for this tone, I'm pretty sure there's some modulation after the delay. So first it's going to be a chorus. I'm just going to use the stock one in Cubase, and this is just going to give the tone a bit of that weird detuned kind of vibe. Almost like a vibrato effect. That's too much, so let's bring it down a little, but we want a little bit of that vibe in there. Let's just bring the width down so it isn't too detuned. There we go. Okay, and lastly, we're going to need a phaser. There's kind of this constant movement in the background of this tone, and I'm pretty sure it's a phaser. And also this tone kind of has that underwater vibe, which I find if you want that vibe, delay into phaser is pretty much always the way to do it. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's using. Let's use the stock Cubase phaser again. And I want it a little quicker, maybe quarter note. Yeah, and let's just bring it right down. Yeah, it just gives it that trippy vibe, makes it feel a little bit underwater and weird. So the clean mid-rangey amp with compression in front of it, into some delay and reverb, into a chorus and a phaser is Livin It Up. Okay, next, let's focus on that insane tone from the verse in Hot Dog. So again, this one's going to be a clean or slightly crunchy amp with just a bunch of effects around it. And for this one, I'm actually going to start with a Diesel VH4, the amp that Wes is known for using. This is just the Brainworks emulation of it. And on channel 2, this sounds like a solid bass to me. You can see I've got the treble here, like all the way up, quite a lot of mid-range as well. Not a lot of bass, and you'll see why we're doing that in a minute. It's a very basic sound at this point, but from here, the main key we need is going to be a lot of filtering on this tone. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a wah pedal in front of the amp. Wes may not have been using a wah pedal, but it definitely sounds like there's something filtering out those low-end frequencies so that we're just kind of left with mid-range and a little bit of high-end. So let's see if we can find the sweet spot for this. Yep, about there, that's what we want. Okay, so we've put a wah in front of the amp, but the real key to this tone now is going to be an auto wah effect after the amp. Wes probably used an Electro Harmonix Qtron, but I'm going to use the good old stock one in Cubase. There are some auto wah plugins available out there though, even some free ones I think, so you're not screwed if you don't have Cubase, but this works for me. And this thing is why we cranked the treble on the amp and used that wah pedal to kind of scoop the low end out, because this is going to filter out so much top end. It's going to give us that wow wow kind of sound we need on the notes, but we're going to need to then compensate heavily for the missing high end because of this low pass filter. So I'm going to put the range all the way up so that this filter is going to sweep right up so we get the most like wah sound possible. And let's see where we want. Yeah, we want maybe about 40, 50 milliseconds. So it's kind of a slow. You really hear that filter open. Maybe quicker. Okay, it sounds good kind of quick. Up the resonance a little maybe. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So that's really starting to get somewhere, but the problem with that is it's going to get lost in a mix because it's missing high end. So the key now is going to, of course, be some EQ, and I just want to kind of tidy up. Yep, that boomy mid-range, and just boost what little high end. If you look here at like what's going on, there's not even any high end up here, so we really need to boost whatever is going on at the very top to just get some kind of semblance of high end in the tone. Okay, that's saved the tone for us. Now we just need some modulation to make it sound a little more weird. So first, it's of course going to be a little chorus to detune it. Sounds good to me, just a little bit of chorus. And lastly, of course, some delay. Maybe we'll go for the stereo delay. There's quite a lot of delay going on in this tone, so I'm thinking maybe we do slightly different times, maybe 150 and 300. A little more than that. Right, and let's bring these down. There we go. Now it has the atmosphere around it. So that was a wah pedal almost acting like an EQ, bringing out the low end, into a slightly crunchy amp emphasizing the treble, into the auto wah, which gives us the sound but loses some high end. So then we boosted the high end with EQ, got some chorus to get it a bit wider and more detuned, and finally some delay for the atmosphere. Love this tone, one of my favorite Limp Bizkit tones ever. Before we keep going, I just want to jump in to say if any of you guys are big nu metal fans and you want to go all in on writing, producing, mixing and mastering this genre, I just dropped a 4.5 hour nu metal course that covers all of it in depth. It's a super fun course, it was super fun to make, and if you love nu metal like I do and you want to make your own nu metal tracks to the highest standard, this course has you completely covered. You'll finish it feeling like you understand everything about this genre like the back of your hand. So go check that out if you're interested. But right now, let's get back into the video. And next, I want to do that iconic sound from the start of My Way. And before someone mentions it, I'm fully aware that STL Tones dropped a Wes Borland plugin that has some presets like the My Way sound. But in my opinion, it could have sounded a lot closer. No shade to STL Tones because they make amazing, amazing products and that plugin is awesome. But for me, I want to get as close as possible to what I'm hearing on the record. And also, I want to understand how the tone was made. Like, it's not enough for me to just get a preset and let that do the work. I'm too much of a nerd for that. So for this one, I'm starting with the VH4 again on channel 2, like mostly clean, slightly crunchy. And again, like no low end, it's all mids and treble. Now, this tone is one of the craziest guitar tones ever for effects, and I know that Wes used an Ibanez chorus flanger on this, which is a very unique and specific pedal. Unfortunately, there's no plugin emulation of it, but we can get a similar sound by using some kind of unconventional effects here. So firstly, that pedal, you can set it to either chorus or flanger mode. It sounds to me like there's no chorus, so I'm guessing it was on flanger mode. So we'll just use the stock one in Cubase. Yep, that sounds cool. Now, the real key to this sound is that he used the pedal on whacked mode, which I believe is like an almost synth-like digital like ring modulator kind of sound. So I did try using the ring mod in Cubase, but wherever I set it, it just sounded like demonically awful. So we'll abandon that one. So what I tried instead of that actually worked is firstly filtering the tone, and I'm just going to use an EQ. Again, he might have used a Qtron, or maybe it's just a characteristic of the chorus flanger pedal that it kind of like filters the tone. So let's just emphasize that mid-range, give this almost like a telephone kind of EQ band. Yep, now it's sitting more in that range that we want. And maybe we'll just dip some boomy mids as well. Okay, that helps, but we still need that grainy digital weird sound that we would be getting if the ring modulator had been helpful. So what we can do instead of that is use something to downsample the audio. Let's use Crush, and this should give us a similar kind of effect. Let's just make sure we're not getting too much of that fizzy high end. That's what I'm looking for. So we're basically using 3 effects in sequence there, a flanger into an EQ that's acting as a filter, into a downsampler, and all of those are adding together just to make up the sound of the one pedal by Ibanez. Crazy pedal, but we're getting close at least. After that, we just need a couple more quick things. I want to put an EQ after the amp, and let's filter it again just because the amp itself can introduce some more of those low and high frequencies we don't want. And we want to slightly shape this mid-range. A little too much chimey high end as well. Up here somewhere. And still a little bit of boomy low stuff. I'm kind of cutting everywhere here. Okay, and finally for this tone, we just need some delay. I'll go for the ping pong delay. And we want around 400-500 milliseconds. There we go. All right, now let's do a heavy one. I want to do the super low gnarly tone that we hear in the song Nookie. So firstly, I'm going for the VH4 again on the high gain channel. It's highly likely that's what Wes used. It sounds like it to me. But it still needs a little work from there. So the first thing is we need to tune this super low. I don't have a 4-string guitar like the man himself. I could grab my 7-string back there, but I'm just going to pitch this down. We can use the 3 kilohertz pitch shifter, and I'm in C sharp here, usual Limp Bizkit tuning. This track is way down in F sharp. They did it before everyone else. We're all doing it now. So we want to go down 7 semitones. All right, we're getting somewhere now, but what I want to do now is turn off the cab sim within this plugin so that we can use a different impulse response. This Brainworks amp sounds great to me, but the cab IR isn't the best selection. I want the amp head, but I don't want the cab. So I'm thinking let's just use something neural DSP, maybe Soldano. This cab definitely has like a new metal sound in my opinion. So let's try that. All right, that completely transforms it for me. I don't know what cab Wes was using on the song. I'm sure it wasn't a Soldano cab, but whatever it is, this sounds close in my opinion. You can always count on Neural DSP to have the best cab IRs. I'm not sponsored by them, just great plugins. Okay, so we're getting kind of close. But we still need that really gnarly distortion. This tone is so blown out sounding, and Wes has used a lot of different distortion pedals over the years, but it's definitely not something tight like a TS-808. Like, it's more fuzzy, loose, messy. So I'm thinking let's try a Proco Rat. This is Brainworks' emulation of it, and this is a nasty, nasty pedal. Crazy distortion. It can sound awful, but I think if we get this in the sweet spot, it's going to sound perfect. To me, that sounds spot on. I know that Wes has used a Proco Rat at times, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's what it is. If not, it's definitely something with that similar type of distortion. Also, let me know below if you guys would like to see a full production remake of that track on the channel, because I've been thinking it would be a fun one to do. So if you guys want it, I'll make it happen. But right now, we have one more tone to do, and this one is going to be kind of a deep cut from the first album, which is an overlooked album. No one does it like Ross Robinson. So the track I want to do is Sour. Now, this may seem like a weird one to do because it's just a clean tone, right? Like he's just tapping and it's a clean tone. Well, kind of, but I've never really heard a tone like this. It reminds me of Primus's bass tone. It's so percussive, so mid-rangey. The playing style is definitely part of the tone with this two-handed tap and stuff. But the tone itself is awesome as well. So I tried a bunch of different clean amps for this tone, and the only thing I could get close with was the clean amp in 14 Cali with the mid-range all the way up and treble all the way up. Most clean amps tend to have a very sparkly top end, and that's not what this needs. It needs a very rounded off top end. However, other than that rounded off top end that we want, if we leave it like this, it is kind of just a standard clean tone. What I love about this plugin is that it comes with this grind pedal, which basically tightens up the low end, slightly boosts the high mids, I think, and just adds a bit more grit. And this totally gives it that like percussive sound. You could also put an EQ in front of the amp, but I'm loving what that pedal's doing for us. That's almost there now, but what I want to do next is just put a transient shaper in front of the amp because this tone is so punchy, probably a characteristic of the amp that Wes was using, and he's just very good at punching holes in his fretboard when he's tapping. So let's try boosting the attack so that each note has a little more punch to it. Okay, that's pretty much there now. All I want to do from there is just to get a bit more of a 90s vibe, let's just throw the Ampex tape machine after the amp. This will only be really subtle, but it'll just give it a bit of that grainy, tapey sound. Beautiful. Now it really sounds like an amp in the 90s. And there you have it, guys. That's 5 Limp Bizkit tones broken down and replicated. Wes Borland is a genius with the guitar. Like, I've always loved him, but trying to emulate this stuff really showed me just how crazy he is with these tones. If you guys enjoyed this one, please hit the like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And remember, if you want the deepest dive possible on everything nu metal, you can check out the course in the description. So go take a look at that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.